Prime Minister Modi was addressing a rally in the election-bound state of Chhattisgarh. On Saturday, Prime Minister Modi announced that the free ration scheme that was introduced, bear in mind, during the time of COVID and has around 80 crore beneficiaries, that free ration scheme is now set to be extended for another 5 years. Let's first listen to what the Prime Minister had to say.
मेरा पहला संकल्प बना था कि मैं इतने बड़े संकट में किसी भी गरीब के घर का चूल्हा बुझने नहीं दूंगा। मैं गरीब से गरीब का घर का चूल्हा जलता रहे, बच्चे कभी भूखे सो न जाए, इसके लिए मैं जागता रहता था। और भाइयों बहनों, कोरोना काल से लेकर के अब तक 80 करोड़ लोगों को हमने गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना के तहत मुफ्त राशन देने की योजना चलाई। हमारे मध्य प्रदेश में करीब 5 करोड़ हमारे परिवारजन, हमारे 5 करोड़ साथी, उनको घर में ये मुफ्त राशन पहुंचा, उनका चूल्हा कभी बूझा नहीं, मां को कभी रोते बिलखते बच्चे देखने नहीं पड़े। और इसलिए भाइयों बहनों, वैसे तो ये योजना 1 महीने के बाद दिसंबर महीने में पूरी हो रही है।
Right, it ends in the month of December, and the Prime Minister will be extending it for another 5 Decembers. After that, we have Mr. Rakesh Khar, editor of News 9 English Verse, joining us live here on the broadcast on Business Plus. Rakesh ji, talk to us. My only question is, what is the rationale behind the extension of the free ration scheme? When it was introduced, there was COVID, but now there is no COVID. We have elections.
Elections. If I can borrow the phrase from entertainment.
Absolutely.
So, but you have to put it in context. I think Mr. Modi and his government needs to be congratulated for setting this scheme up when it was needed. You know, there was tremendous pressure on Indian government led by Mr. Modi to bring in a cash incentive. A lot of global, statesmen were actually pushing, and there was Indian opposition led by Rahul Gandhi also asking for a cash incentive to mitigate the COVID challenge. But this particular government, didn't come under pressure and brought in this scheme. Brilliant scheme, it was extremely useful, but it's one of those schemes which has outlived its utility. There's a fiscal burden that we must be conscious of. Mr. Modi has made this, announcement about 5 years extension to this scheme in an election rally. I hope, it's only an election rally promise, not a promise in its entirety, because there's a huge fiscal overhang to it. But politics is politics. I'm just keen to take you back to a little conversation I had in 2013 with a gentleman called Arvind Panagaria, who then became the chief economic advisor and then became Niti Ayog's first vice chairman. Chairman is the minister, so my apology, vice chairman. So I did this interview for DNA newspaper, and I said, what are Mr. Modi's priorities? This was before he became the prime minister, but everybody knew there was a sweep, and Mr. Modi was all set to come in. So, he talked about all potential reforms that Mr. Modi could bring in. Many of them have not yet come in actually. But then I asked him about Manrega. And the question on Manrega was extremely important because Mr. Modi, in one of his election speeches and even otherwise on the floor of the House, many BJP leaders had criticized Manrega as a politically savvy, vote-catching, economic policy, which is not rooted in deep economics. That's my view as well. But then Arvind Panagaria responded like a true statesman. He says, Rakesh, let me tell you one fundamental thing. No politician in this country can do Manrega. Forget about Mr. Modi doing so. I said, why? He says, this is a vote bank. This is a certain passport to bringing votes. Because, it was also enshrined as a guarantee the way UPA brought in a few of these economic policies, it's a guarantee. One, you can't do away with a guarantee. It becomes a constitutional imperative. So Mr. Modi can't remove it. But the more important, the more lucrative part is politics. That leads to a very fundamental question, Krishna. When Manrega, we have seen, has not got fattened in a very big way, but it is being sustained with minor tweaks here and there. The budgets are there. So whosoever comes into power next year, Manrega will continue and grow. So, so we have to decide whether our policies are pro-poor or pro-poverty. I have been battling with this big question, and we know a history of states where one after the other there have been pro so-called poor policies, but they're ultimately pro-poverty. If you don't allow individuals to stand on their own feet, now there is no COVID. It's important that we encourage the population, vast one, to stand on its own, at least make an attempt, so that you're not a burden on the larger society.
Right.
Good when they need it, not required when they don't need it.
Right, a fair point, clear, precise understanding. No questions about it. Whatever be the case, politics is politics. But then again, Rakeshji, the same observers say the same thing. If you are not there to rule, you can't fix the economy. First, you have to ensure that you come back to power, or you are in power, to ensure you do what you want.
Krishna, we need a situation where you are in power as the best person, whosoever it is,
right,
but you also have the right fix for the economy. An economy can take a certain amount of pressure. States after states are under pressure on the fiscal perspective. Centre's own debt situation is not that great. We have election year. We are going to spend a lot. We already spend a lot. The only person spending in this country today is the government of India and other state governments. Private sector is not yet kicked in. If you continue to do that without actually a vast population coming on its own, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Indian middle class, incidentally, which we are looking about taxation story for Diwali gifting. The whole pressure comes ultimately on the Indian middle class.
Right, the Indian middle class is where finally the baton cannot be passed anymore. It ends with the middle class, and with that, we have come to the end of this edition of Business Plus. Completely out of time over here. I'm going to thank Rakesh ji and Karthik Malhotra for taking time out to be with us here on this edition of Business Plus. But that's a wrap here from my side. This is Krishna Kumar signing off. Keep it with News 9.